All right, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started with our Senate Redistricting Committee meeting. And I'd like Senator Marty Harbin, would you please open us in prayer? Thank you. Thanks, Senator Harbin. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. We've had an active redistricting season already. Many of you have attended so many of the 11 town hall meetings that we had, 9 across the state, 2 that were virtual. And I appreciate everyone's willingness to travel, willingness to make sure that the public knows we and the Senate committee truly want to hear from them and we want their input, and we appreciate them coming to visit us as well. As y'all know, the data is now in. It's been in a little over 2 weeks that we've had the first tranche of data from the U.S. Census Bureau, and we're in a position to move forward. And based on having that data, we need to be able to move forward with our redistricting plans and to allow for public input so that we can continue to do what we need to do in a short period of time. I think most of you, well, some of you know that were here last time. It did not include me, but the census data typically is in the end of March following the census year. So that would typically give a 6 to 7, 8 month period, depending upon when the governor at the time called the special session. We're working under a very shortened period of time, but we're going to get the work done and do a good job in the process. There's really 2 things sort of on the agenda today, really just to talk about. The first is that we will need to adopt the principles of this redistricting committee going forward. We're not going to be able to take action on anything today, as many of you are familiar with Senate Rule 2.1.5 or 2-1.5 that says that Senate committees cannot take formal action except when we are in session. So not to be deterred by that and to make sure that we can go forward and continue to do what needs to be done and the public can continue to have input with us. I've handed out right before we started, you'll see what are in essence the proposed principles for our committee to move forward. And Madam Leader, yes, ma'am. Can you hand that, sir? Thank you. And for those of you in the Zoom room, those were emailed to you shortly a while ago as well. So take a look at those. We're going to go through them in just a minute. But in essence, what we need to do is go through this, and I'd like to, at the conclusion of this, call for an informal assent that these are the principles that we're going to operate under going forward. Importantly, they are the same principles that we adopted 10 years ago in 2011, with the exception of some technology references that were in the 2011 version that included references to floppy disks and things like that we don't have anymore. So those technology references have been updated. I'm also told these are substantially similar to the same principles that were adopted and that guided the Senate committee 20 years ago in 2001 as well. So what we want to do is incorporate what we have heard over the last several weeks, if not a couple of months. This is needed so that those who want to submit plans to us can do so, understanding what our principles are. Those that are engaged in the process and that are familiar with this are not going to be surprised, and this has been fully expected and anticipated because it's substantially what we did last time. Also importantly, these are the same principles. I believe they're the exact same principles that the House Redistricting Committee is voting on this afternoon and is expected to take action on. So with that, with what I've handed to you, let's just go over them, take a moment and go over the plans under Roman numeral heading 3, the general principles for drafting plans. Number 1, each congressional district should be drawn with a total population of plus or minus 1 person from the ideal district size. I think those of you that have spent time with council and have certainly plowed this field before know that that's not just an aspiration, but something that's required of us. So we want to make sure we're in full compliance with federal law as we move forward. Number 2 is that each legislative district of the General Assembly should be drawn to achieve a total population that is substantially equal as practicable, considering the principles listed below. Number 3, all plans adopted by the committee will comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as that law has been amended. Number 4, all plans adopted by the committee will comply with the United States and Georgia constitutions. Number 5, districts will be composed of contiguous geography. Districts that connect on a single point are not contiguous. Number 6, no multi-member districts shall be drawn on any legislative redistricting plan. Number 7, the committee should consider A, the boundaries of counties and precincts, B, compactness, and C, communities of interest. Again, these are things that we've been hearing about from the public that they want included. If you attended the meeting this morning, and most of you did, and thank you for that. Actually, I think all of our members here did. We heard from those of us that deemed themselves experts in the field that wanted us to hear these principles as well. Number 8, efforts should be made to avoid the unnecessary pairing of incumbents. And then finally, the identifying of these criteria is not intended to limit the consideration of any other principles or factors that the committee deems appropriate. What you'll see beyond that is just sort of some pro forma process information about how we'll proceed. But as you see, the principles are as they have been historically designed to make sure that we comply with the law, make sure that we incorporate those basic principles of fairness that we've been hearing about from the public, and that it's a set of principles that we can have and will govern us going forward in a way that will be fair to everyone. So with that, let me ask if anyone has any comments about the principles for our committee. Yes, sir, Senator Harbison.
You literally mean one person as opposed to 1%?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's one person. In fact, Senator, that's something I've learned since working on this committee of recent, that I believe, and I'm going to ask, we have counsel that wants to confirm this or dispute this, that I believe that is a federal law requirement that each congressional district must be drawn to the person to be equal.
I guess what I was getting at is the deviation. I think I sort of co-mingled that in my mind.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, and Senator, there are deviation allowances with regard to House and Senate districts, state House and Senate districts, but it's a little different, actually very different, and that makes it all the more difficult on the congressional. Yes, sir. Senator Gooch.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, I believe we had that same portion as well. So the technology today allows us to do that.
Any other questions or comments? All right.
Will the public have time to comment on our proposed guidelines?
Well, if they want to make comment on it before we take official action, there would be time for that, because we're not going to be able to vote these in until day one of whenever our special session is called, and we don't know when that is yet.
So,
As a practical, let me round out that answer though. As a practical matter, I want us to, as a committee, if we're able to coalesce around these principles so that we can move forward, so that the public knows what are the principles that the Senate committee is going to be guided by, as I, representing group A or B, want to submit maps for consideration.
will they be posted somewhere?
These, yes, ma'am, they'll be posted, and we'll make sure they should be part of our Senate committee website.
So we need to say what that website is so that whoever's listening now can.
Well, it's a Senate committee website, the redistricting committee website. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Okay. Chairman Mullis, any questions? Did you want to make an informal suggestion that we be guided by these principles going forward as we do the work of this committee?
Thank you for reading my mind.
I would like to move that we approve the 2021, 2022 Senate Committee guidelines for.
Okay, I'm gonna take that, Mr. Chairman, as a recommendation of how this committee will be guided going forward, because we can't take formal action. Yes, sir. And the idea, folks, is that it would be my request when we meet on day one of special session for our committee, that we take a vote then to ratify and adopt the actions of this committee today. Thank you, Chairman. Any discussion?
It's our question.
Yes, ma'am.
So will there be an opportunity to add to, take away any of this material that we're looking at today? Is this a work in progress? This is not final?
It is not final in the sense that we cannot vote for it to be final, but I would tell you, Senator, that it would be my hope that we will coalesce around these principles so that the work that not only that you and I, but the work more importantly that the public does between now and special session day, they do so knowing what our principles are. If they're going to be changed, modified, significantly moved around, then that denies them the ability to submit maps and information to us, understanding sort of what the paradigm is by which things will be judged. So I guess the technical answer is yes. My hope is that no, that they won't be changed. They are consistent with what we've done historically. It's the same thing that the House is doing. And quite frankly, in fairness to the public, they need to know what the principles are by which we're going to go about the redistricting process. I know that was a long answer to a short question, but I wanted to be fair and complete with you.
If there is something, even if we have been following these guidelines that we are reviewing today, is it possible? Would it be permissible?
I think the way I would answer that would be to say that we will have to take a formal vote at the first committee hearing before the rules are officially adopted. But again, I don't want to take our eye off of the importance of making sure that we have consistency between now and that time so that it's fair to the public. Senator Hartman, did you have a question?
Yes. I'm a little leery of with the overriding thing in my mind about everything we do is on the record and could go forward to any kind of litigation in the future. Is that correct? This would be part of it. Is that correct? Would that be something that can be considered in a legislative arena as well? I'm a little, if we both said we accept these recommendations, or we encourage it as opposed to we will consider some of the things in here when we are drafting legislation as it comes forward as we go along. I'm a little leery about voting for something, anything before we get to the actual plans that being presented or something like that.
Okay, well, and I appreciate that, Senator. I would say that these
of any kind of litigation in the future.
well, I don't know that I've got a crystal ball for that. What I would say is that given that what we are doing today is in the public forum, and that when litigation over redistricting matters largely call upon just about anything that's happened within the public forum, this would be a part of the process if someone were to examine everything that this committee did leading up to the adoption of the rules and then what we did after the adoption of the rules.
And what I'm concerned about is someone could backfill some information to fit these guidelines or something that you may disagree, well, I may disagree with. At the same time, I'm just forward looking about, how you could get yourself tied up in a position that you don't necessarily support. Or you, myself.
Sure. I'm not sure, Senator, I know what you mean when you say backfill.
In other words, we do these guidelines and someone use these guidelines in an ambiguous sense and come up with something that you don't agree with and apply it that way.
Sure. Well, I think I understand your question now. You find some of these to be maybe less definite than what you would like. And I would tell you that these principles, just like many of the principles that we've heard about from the public and from the experts and everybody in between, when it comes to the principles of redistricting, are less definite notions, if you will. They are concepts of fairness, concepts of equity, concepts of transparency, all of those type things. So with regard to that, I don't find these principles to be lacking in enough specificity to be concerned about. That's just my opinion, number one. Number two, I take solace in the fact that they're the same that was done 10 years ago. They're virtually the same that was done 20 years ago. It's the same thing that the House is doing. I think if they haven't already voted today, they're in the process of voting on these as well.
I did this, I was here. Right?
Yes, sir.
I'm the recommendation, the thing that maybe consideration as opposed to consider some of these things, as opposed to recommendation. You could, but I just don't want to be locked into something that, and I think these are pretty good words here. I think it's a collection of thoughts that we embrace from people around the state as they make their presentation, but I just want to make sure that we're not putting myself, and I speak for myself, in a position that somebody said, well, you voted on this right here, and it has something that I just got, and I didn't know it was going to be used for that particular one.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. All right. Let me just ask for if we could, we're going to have an indication of agreement. We'll call it that instead of a vote, and hopefully we aren't skating too close to the Senate rule that says we're not supposed to take any official action. So for those in favor of what we have here before, that will be considered to be the guiding principles for the public and others that want to interface with us, if you would please raise your hand. And how about those online? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I'm giving you a thumbs up. This is Greg Dolezal.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Anyone else online? Okay. All right. Does anyone want to vote no, or anyone want to give an indication of declining? All right, fair enough, Senator. That understood. Okay. All right, we've got a couple of abstains. No. Again, it's just whether or not we are going to informally agree that these will be the principles going forward, subject to our final vote when we get back together. All right, very good. Thank you for that. I know it's a little bit awkward procedurally based on the rule that we have. Similarly, we will not be voting on the rules of the committee until we are able to convene on the day one. We will present those to you at that hearing, if not before, so you can consider those the rules under which the committee rules, not the principles for redistricting, but the committee rules under which the committee will operate going forward. Any questions about that? Okay. Let me open it up for any comments that anyone else may want to make.
Mr. Chair, this is Blake. I apologize that I didn't chime in. I was trying to unmute, and but I was okay with the principles as well.
Thank you, Senator Tillery, Chairman Tillery. Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, any comments?
Chairman, I'd just like to thank you and all the committee members that have been so diligent to attend all your meetings. I think you had 11 throughout the state, all different parts of the state, to allow the public to have adequate input on their concerns and suggestions on the process. And thank you for keeping it so transparent and open to the public, and look forward to the special session whenever that may be, so we can do the will of the people.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Counselor. I appreciate those kind comments. It's certainly been a team effort. Chairman Mullis.
I would like to also, I remember,
Okay.
I'd like to also echo that and apologize for not being able to attend most of the meetings due to my physical, problem. Thank you again. People had a great chance to maybe their concerns and what they want to see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, with that, there are no other
Am
final
I now?
comments.
Oh.
Anything else we
All
got? Anything else? Okay. Then, yes, ma'am.
For copies of what are they going to be charged for?
What are you looking at, Senator?
And so, public access to redistricting data and materials. Paragraph B, I read through it now, but that just raised a concern. What are they being charged for, like maps or? Page 1.
I'm sorry, where are you?
B,
Okay, all right.
B,
Paragraph B, okay.
B as in boy,
B is in Bravo, got it,
bravo,
Okay.
boy,
right.
beautiful, brilliant.
All of those,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Senator, it would be my
Beautifully brilliant,
assumption,
bodacious.
it would be my assumption that those would be charged at whatever the statutory rate for copies of making any sort of government documents available to the public.
Okay.
I would think also, Senator, that the raw data information would be available by download, which would be at no cost. But printing maps does cost money. And so that would be my understanding of how that would be handled. And there would be a reimbursement expectation for the cost of the maps that are printed that people ask for access to. You would know, I wouldn't know, Senator. I wouldn't know, but it also seems fair that since printing maps costs money, that most anytime whether it's us or the public interface with government documents and materials, that there's a reimbursement cost to the state for that. Senator Mullis.
Mr. Chairman, I would record this that 10 cents a sheet for an 8.5 by 11 and an hourly charge according to the lowest paid person in that's so correct.
Is that-
Colorful map that they call for.
Thank you.
Okay. Folks, with that, I would, and fortunately, since we do have some principles that are going to guide the committee, I would encourage everyone to head to Gina Wright's office and work on maps. Her office is there. That is a significant part of what they do. And as you know, she has been a great partner in this going forward so far this year already by attending all of the public town hall meetings that we've had. So if there's nothing else, the chair would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. We got a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Very good. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
I like this.